there, welcome back to another video, and today I'm talking through a Radiohead song called High and Dry. Now, I've been teaching this recently to a few students and it's such a great song. Radiohead, of course, many hits over the years. This particular one has something like 100 million views on YouTube. It's crazy, but it's an amazing song, so I'm going to talk through how to do all the parts in it today. As if you're playing acoustic guitar, because it's one of those things where you can play the song on its own and it's still just as magical. So the great thing about this song, it's only got 3 chords. So I'll talk those through in a minute, but a few things first. So tempo is about 88 beats per minute, which is more of a ballad tempo, not super fast. I'll explain why that's important later on. And we're in the key of E major as well. So the reason that is important as well is because we can play lots of open chords in this tuning, because the guitar typically lends itself to being friendly to the key of E major. Because if you know the poem, you got Eddie, A, Dynamite, Goodbye Eddie, if you know that, you've got a bunch of notes in there that are part of the E major scale. And because of that, we can have these 2 top strings, the B and the E, actually ring out over the top of a lot of those chords. And so it gives you some time to move between the chords and have something still sustaining as you play and as you move your fingers around. So E major is a really nice key to play guitar in, and obviously it sounds beautiful too. Now, I'm going to show you these chords here. So we've basically got variations of an F sharp minor, there's a variation of an A, and then there's an E major as well. So if you watch the Radiohead actually play, you'll see Tom York play the F sharp minor in a particular way. Now, a traditional F sharp minor is a bar chord. So you've got your finger across the 2nd fret, 3 and 4 are on the A and D strings on the 4th fret, which obviously you can play. That's the technical way to play an F sharp minor. In this particular instance, we're going to do something a little bit different. So keeping the 3 and 4 on the 4th fret, we're going to put our first finger on the 2nd fret of the G strings, which is an A note. And then, if you can, loop your thumb over the top to play the F sharp bass note. That's our first chord. Now, if you can't play that, I'll show you an alternative in a moment. Then the next chord we're going to do is, again, a variation of an A. So a normal A, you'd have your 1, 2, 3 fingers all in a line on the 2nd fret, on the D, G and B strings. So this would be an A. Now we're going to do what's called an A sus2, which is where we remove the 3rd finger from the fretting pattern. So we're just putting down fingers on the 2nd fret of the D and G strings. So it sounds, instead of being a traditional A like this, you get an A sus2, sounds like this. So again, because we're in the key of E major, we can let those top 2 strings ring out so that they drone on through our chord changes. And then we're going to our bog standard E major. Now, I mentioned before there's a variation on the F sharp. Now, what you can do, and this is what I encourage students to do if they haven't quite got their heads around changing chords quickly, is you can do an F sharp like this. So we're just going to use 3 fingers. Going to use 2, 3 and 4, all right? So your 2nd finger goes on the 2nd fret of the low E. Then the back end of that finger, the sort of fleshy part on the back, is actually going to mute the A string behind it, so it doesn't make a sound. And then your 3rd and 4th fingers are going to fret on the 2nd fret of the D and G strings, like so. And then all we've got to do to move to the A sus2 is to take our 2nd finger off the low E string we skip that for the A sus2. We play from the A string downwards. So there's only one finger difference between those two chords. Like so. I'll play the versions back to back so you can compare them. They do sound a little bit different, but they're very similar. So very similar chord shapes there. Now I'm going to show you through how to play the strumming pattern, because it actually mimics what the drums are doing. So you can hear the drums, it starts out with that drum groove, the sort of the two kicks, the boom boom ga ga boom ga boom boom ga ga boom ga, like that. And so we're essentially doing downstrokes for the kick drum. Boom boom ga da da boom ga boom boom. That's the strumming pattern. Now this is important because, as I mentioned at the top of the video, we're at 88 beats per minute. And I always encourage every student to play along with the metronome, because that is the best way to make sure that you are not floating too fast or too slow. You're maintaining a consistent tempo. Because once you are confident enough to play, in a band or with friends or on a gig, you want to be the person that's able to stay on time. Because it's very distracting and very difficult to play along with somebody who floats in and out of time. So if you practice with a metronome or with a recording, that's a great way to make sure that your speed doesn't change. The other reason it's helpful is because you can take the strumming pattern that I was just displaying and you can slow it down. So if that strumming pattern is too complicated for you, you can play it slower and then speed it up. That's a great way to actually make sure that you're getting the part correct. And then as your muscles improve and as your technique improves, you'll be able to speed that up and get it up to the original tempo. Now YouTube's fantastic for this as well, because you can slow down the tempo of the song. You've got that little playback speed button in the corner there, so you can go down to 0.9x instead of 1x, and that helps, and the pitch doesn't change. It does get a little bit garbly, so the audio does sound a little bit strange sometimes, but that doesn't mean that it's broken. It's just that's what audio sounds like when it's slowed down. It used to change the pitch as well, so the fact that it doesn't now is actually pretty amazing. So you've got the chords, you've got the strumming pattern, and you've got the tempo and your understanding of how to slow it down and to get that pattern, that strumming pattern correct. And now the only other part that I would show you is it's a little intro part with octaves that sort of leads into the verses. So you hear it in the intro of the song leading into verse 1, and then you hear it after the choruses leading into verse 2. Now all it is we're basically taking our first finger and our fourth finger, the pinky. We're going to be placing them on the A and G strings, and you've got first finger on the 11th fret and then the pinky on the 13th fret. So that is a G sharp octave, okay? Now again, because we're in the key of E major, we'll mute that D string in the middle there, so you should have between the three notes here like so. Now we're going to play all of the strings pretty open. As long as we mute that D, it'll still sound nice. So the part, as I'm sure you're aware, sounds a little bit like this. That last chord there is actually another version of E major. So if you have 1, 3, 4 on the 7th fret and the 9th fret of the D and G strings, so it's actually a power chord shape, but again, in the key of E major, lots of open strings to play with, so that's fun. I love this song, and I'm always hesitant to teach songs I love in case I fall out of love with them again, but this one's been an absolute joy to teach. So I hope that was helpful. If it was, let me know below. If there's something else you'd like me to break down so you can learn it, let me know as well, and I look forward to seeing you in the next one. If you want to learn more songs, YouTube thinks that you will like the ones over here. Thanks for watching. I'll see you soon. Bye.